Hi everyone, this is Caleb, and we have been in quarantine for 3 weeks now. Woo! So, to pass the time, I'm going to give you my list of my top 10 graphic novels. Number 1 is Watchmen.
It is May 12th, 1959, when I'm introduced to Janie. She buys me a beer. The first time a woman has done this for me. As she passes me the cold, perspiring glass, our fingers touch.
Watchmen is a graphic novel written by Alan Moore, illustrated by Dave Gibbons, and published in 1987. Watchmen, it's the godfather of comic books. There's so much to say about it. I don't know where to begin. It's dense. It's complex. It's about these original characters. It starts with the death of the comedian, who has a really messed up past. Then Rorschach, he's worried that there's an assassin out there that's hunting for mass. This is a time where being a masked hero has been outlawed. So he has to warn his former teammates. Goes to Night Owl, goes to Silk Spectre, goes to Dr. Manhattan, goes to Ozymandias. He's trying to figure out this mystery. Each of these characters has a rich backstory. The writing is incredible. Dr. Manhattan, he's this being of infinite power and energy who can see all of time at once. And the way that his dialogue is describing how he views time and space is really impressive stuff. Rorschach is this standout character. He's just a human, but he has convictions. He knows that someone's behind this, and he's all about the truth. He wants the truth to be out there no matter what. And there's heroes that are at conflict with that. Watchmen, there's too much to say. It's a feat. It is a feat of storytelling power, and it's masterful. Number 2 is Mouse, A Survivor's Tale. Mouse, Book 1, My Father Bleeds History, is written and drawn by Art Spiegelman. Published in 1991. I think I've only cried twice reading a graphic novel, and this was the first one. Mouse, it's as good as everyone says it is. The art is kind of minimalistic. Look at this. This book is very personal to Art. It's autobiographical. It's about Art's father, Vladek, who is a Polish Jew that survived the Holocaust and then moved to the US in the 1950s. And it's a series of interviews of present-day Art interviewing his father about his experiences. And this is tough for Vladek to recount these stories and what he saw and everything. And it's a comic where the Jews are mice and the Nazis are cats and the Americans are dogs. And it's powerful, it's moving. And it really is, in the end, a story about a son coming to terms with who his father is and understanding his father and having compassion for his father, why he might be miserly or grumpy or have a chip on his shoulder or a little bit paranoid. And really, through his story, learning empathy and compassion for the father as he tries to tell his father's story. It's a beautiful thing. Digging into your family's history and how they got to America and how they got to you. Wonderful. Mouse is majestic. A work of genius. Amazing. Number 3 on the list is DC: The New Frontier. DC: The New Frontier was written and drawn by Darwin Cook and published in 2004, and wow, this is a breathtaking book. This book is a true love letter to DC Comics and the Silver Age heroes. It's kind of a Justice League origin story. I really enjoyed it. You can tell there's a real fondness and affection for these heroes. It's heavy on Hal Jordan. You get a real origin story there, a lot of John Jones, which I love. Martian Manhunter is one of my favorite characters. Takes place in the 1950s, leading up to the formation of the Justice League. There's a scene I love where masked heroes have been outlawed, and society isn't trusting them as much as they used to be. And this is troublesome for people like Batman who wear a mask and who work outside the law a little bit, vigilantes, but works for someone like Superman, who kind of represents the union with the law. So there's a scene where Batman and Superman are meeting on a rooftop, and Superman says, "How did you put it? You on the outside, me on the inside." And Batman says, "It will change." Superman says, "But when?" Batman says, "Simple, when they need us, it will change." And that was really powerful. The art, the retro 50s art deco style is truly amazing, and I can't recommend it highly enough. DC The New Frontier. Man, good stuff. Number 4 is The Dark Knight Returns.
Do you want me to kill you?
Oh, you're not going to kill me. Now! It wasn't easy to make, Clark. It took years and cost a fortune. Luckily, I had both.
He's down here!
The Dark Knight Returns is a graphic novel written and drawn by Frank Miller. Wow, Frank Miller. He's going to show up a lot on this list. Okay, twice, but still. Frank Miller, one of the best. You know, how we get to The Dark Knight is interesting. It's the definitive Batman book, and it's special because it's Batman in his third act, as an old man coming out of retirement. One last hurrah, which is awesome, and is the death of Batman and what happens. This is 1986 it was published. This is the era of the Elseworlds self-contained series. This is how you could get away with doing more adult and mature storylines away from the regular continuity, right? You had Adam West in the 60s, then Denny O'Neil went back to Batman's roots in the 70s, and then finally in the 80s, you had Frank Miller put his stamp on The Dark Knight. This is an awesome Batman. The dialogue is incredible. It's an older man reflecting back. You have a really cool Robin, Carrie Kelly. You have a great Selena Kyle in this, a great Oliver Queen. Batman has a great fight with Superman. You know, the deck is stacked against Batman in this. The world's against him. But he never gives up. He's Batman, and he's awesome. And, you know, everything you've heard about this book is true. It's one of the greats, and it's one of the greats for a reason. Number 5 on the list is Sin City, the complete series.
Stay smart. Stay cool. It's time to prove to your friends that you're worth a damn. Sometimes that means dying. Sometimes it means killing a whole lot of people.
Sin City, the complete series was written and drawn by Frank Miller and published from 1991 through 2000. I like all 7 of these books. I think they're all amazing. I can't just pick one. Frank Miller, over time, became my favorite writer. Simply put, nobody writes like Frank Miller. This is about a fictional town called Basin City, nicknamed Sin City. It's very much based on 40s noir. These are tough guys. These are detectives and cops and bouncers and criminals in their adventures. And Frank Miller has a way of just importing pathos and struggle and realism into these characters and their struggle. My favorite is probably the big fat kill. That clip earlier from Dwight is probably my favorite line in all of comics when he says, "Stay smart, stay cool, stay steady. It's time to prove to your friends that you're worth a damn." Dwight, awesome character. Sin City, it packs a punch, surprisingly. It's just cool. It's stylized. It's violent. It's fun. It's awesome. You know, there's a reason why the movie was a basic panel-to-screen, straight-up adaptation. They used the book like it was storyboards. It's amazing that way. Sin City. Number 6 is X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Come on, Trask. Our work is just beginning. Miss me petite? I reckon so.
Days of Future Past was written by Chris Claremont and drawn by John Byrne. And these two guys, their run on the X-Men is legendary. The X-Men are very near and dear to my heart. They are the reason I got into comic books in the first place, was X-Men the Animated Series. This run is epic. Days of Future Past is neck and neck with the Dark Phoenix saga for me. They're just that good. They're soap operas. They are really detailed in their story. They're really character driven. You get really drawn in. Days of Future Past is a simple enough story. It's post-apocalyptic. The X-Men are in these internment camps. So Kitty Pryde has to travel, her consciousness has to travel back in time to stop Mystique from assassinating Senator Kelly, which is what prompts the government to create the Sentinel program, which imprisons the X-Men. It's an amazing story. It's very dramatic, very heartfelt. It's the X-Men at their best. Chris Claremont just imbues so much pathos and emotion into these characters and their relationships and their struggles. It's a thing of beauty. Days of Future Past. Number 7 is V for Vendetta.
Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
No, I am not a member of the hacker group Anonymous. V for Vendetta is a graphic novel written by Alan Moore and illustrated by David Lloyd. It was published in 1989. V for Vendetta is incredible. It is about a dystopian future where the British government is corrupt and totalitarian, inspired by 1984. And V, from the government's point of view, is a terrorist. He's a mass vigilante, but from his point of view, he's a freedom fighter. He's trying to expose the government and their corrupt deeds. Alan Moore is a fantastic writer. There are some great quotations in V. For example, the famous one, people shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. And another good one, they say that life's a game, then they take the board away. V for Vendetta is the first complex, adult, long, book-length graphic novel I read. It left a big impact. It was very interesting, and I love it. The movie's great. V for Vendetta. Can't recommend it enough. Cue the 1812 Overture.
Wait! Here comes the crescendo! How beautiful is it not?
Number 8 is Marvels. Marvels is a graphic novel written by Kurt Busiek, illustrated by Alex Ross, and published in 1994. Wow, this is an amazing book. It is a true love letter to the Marvel Universe. It's about this news photographer named Phil Sheldon, and through his eyes he observes the entire rise of the Marvel Universe over 4 decades, the 30s to the 70s. And we see it begins with the Human Torch and the Submariner, and then Captain America, World War II, and then the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, the X-Men, and Spider-Man. You see the changing world, and Phil is observing it, and he's impressed by it, and it's amazing and awe-inspiring. And this book is a feast for the eyes. Every page is a painting you could hang on your wall. Ross does an incredible job. Of course, he's Alex Ross. Kurt Busiek, do not sleep on Kurt Busiek. What an amazing writer. He has such a love and affection for these characters. It's probably similar in tone to A New Frontier, which came after, and really just a great definitive history that really honors Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in their work and their legacy, and I just love it. Number 9 is Ghost World.
Yeah, it took me a while before I got a chance to actually play it, but once I heard that song, it was like...
You liked it, huh? Yeah. There's some really rare performances. What about, did you like the Memphis Mini?
Yeah, that was good too. The whole record was good, but that one song, Devil Got My Woman, I mostly just keep playing that over and over. Do you have any other records like that?
There are no other records like that.
Ghost World was written and drawn by Daniel Clowes and published in 1997. And it is not about ghosts. It is about two young women. Enid and Rebecca are friends. And most of the book is just conversations they have with each other. And this is a book about young people. It's very punk rock. It's very indie. They're witty. They're sarcastic. They're filled with piss and vinegar. They're not so much angry at life, but just kind of over it, you know, like young people sometimes are. And they're just very fully well-defined characters. And they just like to observe everything and poke fun at things. The book is not plot-heavy. They just wander around their American city and talk to each other over coffee, over food. They have a friend, Josh. They go to different stores. And it's kind of just them talking it out, figuring out life, figuring out what their next step is. And that's very relatable. If you're a young person, you read this, you really can identify with these characters in that stage in life. And I think that's why it works. I think that's why it became a cult classic and why it has endured. Number 10 is Superman Birthright. Superman Birthright is a comic written by Mark Waid and drawn by Lionel Francis Yu, published in 2004. For me, this is the definitive Superman origin story. I remember reading this in high school, and it was beautiful. Mark Waid is an incredible writer. I met him at a convention. Nice guy. He has such a fondness and love for this character. This book really is a love letter. It starts on Krypton and goes to Smallville. Then Clark spends time in West Africa to Metropolis, the Daily Planet, to an alien invasion. This whole encompassing story, and it's very cinematic. The art is very good. It's told in flashbacks. You jump over different time periods. There's really a lot of heart and emotion to the story. There's some great stuff with the Kents. This is really about why Superman becomes Superman. There's a part where Jonathan says, Clark says, "What did you mean when you say I'm not like you?" And Jonathan, "Oh, you weren't supposed to hear that." Then Clark says, "Not like a man who left home when he was 18 to find his place in the world, who was strong enough to figure out who he was rather than let others decide that for him. Was that hard for you?" Very. Then where do you think I got the courage to do the same thing from? This is really explains the impact the Kents had in raising Clark. And Jonathan specifically. There's some really beautiful father-son stuff here. Excellent book. I recommend it. It's a personal favorite of mine. For a while it was my favorite book, and it's still very high up there for me. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I want to say a quick thank you to Jessica Garcia for loaning me Sin City and The Dark Knight Returns, and Ken Salvera for loaning me Watchmen and recommending The New Frontier to me. Thank you so much. Thanks again.